could start sharing right you know, where okay, we're live already. Hi everyone. Hi
Hello.
Facebook. Hi Facebook. Hi LinkedIn. Hi YouTube. Hi everyone. Here we are today. It's we're with Thrive Talk live, and I'm here with Clinton Mansfield, founder and CEO of Provoke Coach. And I'm going to give it a couple seconds for some people to come in. And if you want to share to anywhere, we could do that in the meantime, give people a couple minutes to jump on. But you can share to your page if it hasn't gotten on there yet. We could do that in the meantime, give people a couple minutes. How's everybody doing tonight? Well, I have my daughter for the first time on here. She's 8 years old. She's watching me from YouTube. She swears that her mom is famous. She has no idea. Funny, right? She's like, look. How's that? Let me see who's here because this thing. All right, let me see. Hi. All right. Okay, so let me see. All right, so we'll get started. This is Thrive Talk Live. If this is the first time that you and I meet, my name is Sarai Nammur. I am a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida. I'm the founder of Trinity Community Mental Health Center in Miami. And I'm also the founder of Circle of Champions Worldwide, where many of you might be tribe members of. And my passion, hey, Dean, I see you out there. My passion is to help people repurpose their pain and turn it into their purpose. And everyone that I bring here is pretty much someone just like that. Someone who has gone through whatever thing they've been through. Sometimes it could be major trauma, or sometimes it could be other things, but they have found a way to repurpose their pain and use it as a way to help others overcome their own pain. So that's why they're called champions. So my fellow champion here is Clinton Mansfield from Provoke Coach. Clinton is a business coach. He is a father. He is a husband. He does business coaching, and I'm pretty sure that I always let people sort of introduce themselves after I say what I have to say, because I'm sure there's so much more that he could explain over me. But I'm really excited to have him here. He is extremely passionate. He's extremely energetic, and he's got me so excited to do this. So I'm going to hand it over to you for a second to just say anything that I may have missed out on. I may have missed out on a couple things. I'm sure I did, because all I said was business coach, husband, and father.
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, I definitely appreciate you having me on your show. I watch your show, constantly every week, couple times a week, and I really enjoy it. And we get to see, and of course, provoke positive change, essentially together. And I think that, it's not only exciting for me to be able to get, a bit of a message out to people on a regular basis, but also to, kind of pay it forward. And when you were talking about, hey, business coach, husband and father, I think that those are probably the two biggest ones that I'm most proud of, is being a good husband and, of course, being a good father to my daughter. And look, I'm going to tell a story today that in a lot of cases is going to sound a bit crazy, a bit nuts, a bit like, holy shit, like that's real. Almost like it was written in script. Okay. It's more like a Quentin Tarantino type of, exciting story. But I want to be very, very clear. And, before I really kind of get into where I'm at right now in the present and where I'm going in the future, as far as Provoke Coach, as far as the Provoke brand, I want you to understand that the story that I'm going to tell, even though it feels painful, and sometimes it sounds painful, and it even brings tears to my own eyes, I want you to know that I wouldn't change anything. Not one thing. Okay. I wouldn't change a thing, because things happen for you. They don't happen to you. Okay. Yes. Great people like Ed Milet and all the successful entrepreneurs and leaders in not only my industry and the coaching industry, but in every industry out there, they have learned to kind of take in life's messages and really regurgitate exactly where they wanted to go. They've used it for fuel or energy to be able to get to the next level.
Yes.
So where I'm at right now and where Provoke Coach is really Provoke is a brand. And if you haven't noticed, I kind of got a kind of a funky hairstyle here. This is my faux hawk, or my attempt to be cool in my daughter's eyes, right? I still had hair, which I'm actually pretty excited about because I didn't think that I was going to have it this long. But it's a mohawk, and it's a faux hawk, just like my logo. And my logo, if you guys know, is a rooster. And it's a rooster for many different reasons. The word provoke to me is really just like a rooster every single day getting on the perch and, you know, hey, cock-a-doodle-doing, right, to wake you up in the morning and provoke you to get your ass out of bed. Okay, yes. Get to work. I grew up on a farm. Okay, it was normal for you to hear these sounds in the morning, right? It was normal for you to get out there and work, right, on the farm. And look, you know, we weren't a big time farmers. Okay, let's not be unrealistic to say, but we grew up with that type of work ethic, you know, and you know, where we're at right now with Provoke Coaches, yes, we do business coaching. Okay, yes, we do lifestyle coaching, especially with everything with COVID. We're doing a lot more one-on-one lifestyle coaching to where we're making people better. Okay, so we're provoking positive change, not only in people, but in business. And then of course, peak performance, okay, which I'll get into in a little bit, but it's important for us to be able to excel even further. Even if you're kicking ass in life, there's another level above that. And that doesn't always, you know, that doesn't always mean financial. That doesn't always mean promotion. That doesn't always mean hierarchy, right? Or things of that nature. That's not what that means. It's going really to the next level. But where are we going? So right now, I've just launched Provoke Print. Okay, this gives an opportunity for people to actually choose their word. Okay, mine's provoke. Okay, whatever your word is, you're going to have an opportunity to go to Provoke Print and design your shirt or design your apparel or design your merch. Okay, awesome. Now what you have to do, okay, and this is the whole idea of provoking positive change, what you have to do with everything that I do, whether it's coaching, whether it's my apparel company, whether it's the other relationships that I have in business, everything goes to one thing. And that is to be able to provide and be able to give back, which I'll get into in a second. You have Provoke Print, and then you have Provoke Capital, which I started about 1.5 years ago. A couple of brothers actually got me introduced to lending money and actually selling money, okay, and giving business owners kind of a break when the big banks would not help them financially. These brothers would actually get private equity and actually help them start their business and really grow their business. So I did a lot of research, you know, over a good year about actually how to be successful with it. And now we're actually able to actually give capital to business owners. So especially during COVID times when people were strapped, it's like, look, we can get you the money, because there's a lot of people with a lot of deep pockets out there that like to make a little bit of money as well. Okay, it is always a win-win. We get the money for people. Now, where does all this stem? So I want to be able to help business owners build their business. And a lot of times capital is very challenging for business owners to get. So we get it for them. Okay, yes, do they got to pay an extra interest rate? It's not like going to, you know, these big banks, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and doing all this, right? It has nothing to do with that, right? It's all private equity. So it's just an opportunity for me to drive more revenue into my cause, okay? With Provoke Capital, with Provoke Coach, you know, doing the coaching, right? Doing the speaking and everything. Everybody, all my clients, what they have to do is they have to be able to give back.
Right.
They have to be able to say, okay, as a part of my fee, and it's mandatory to work with my company, with Provoke Coach or any of the other affiliates, that if you do business with us, we have to be able to give back to the community. So the groups are the children, the homeless, our pets and our livestock, the planet, okay? And then of course our protectors, which are the military, the firefighters, police officers, EMTs, healthcare workers, anybody that is going to get us out of a bind, we want to be able to provide assistance to those people. Okay. So what I'm really doing is not trying to make millions. Okay. What I'm really trying to do is provide millions, you know, of cash back into the communities that need it the most. Okay. So
do you give them a list? Do you tell them who to give money to, or how do you?
So that's kind of a part of the gig, is that, you know, I want those good relationships with the, you know, the businesses and the nonprofits that are really providing, you know, some good change in the world. So if they have people, you know, look, I'll do my research and make sure it's a legitimate foundation that I want to be able to, you know, and they got to provide the numbers to us in order for them to be an approved charity or charitable organization. Show me the numbers. Okay. Show me that that money is going to the right place.
And that's so awesome. But I also know that, you know, we spoke, and I also know usually when we have a desire to help that much, it usually comes from a place of pain that you've learned to, that you're trying to fill that hole, so to speak. Now I said so to say, like Raymond does, so to speak. So where does this need come from for you?
Yeah. So great question. I mean, I think that, you know, I mean, if I were to, you know, kind of tell my story, is that, you know, look, I grew up, you know, in a place where, you know, Grant, Michigan, which is this small farming community, you know, in Michigan. You know, if we were to, you know, look, it'd be right there on the map. Okay. You know, as everybody from Michigan tells you, you know, it's right there, you know, just north of Grand Rapids. And, you know, such a wonderful place to grow up, a very small town. Everybody knew everybody. Everybody knew everybody's business, which was, you know, not always, you know, the best, you know, embarrassing at times. But, you know, I grew up in a place of, you know, of a great deal of love and this old country style living. Okay. To where, you know, your grandparents were close to you, your aunts and uncles were close to you, your cousins were close to you. It was just like, you know, look, you and our grandfather, I mean, look, we'd bale hay at my grandfather's place with me. And, you know, my brother was very young at the time, so he'd sit at the top of the pile of hay. But me and my cousins, and then of course, you know, my father and uncle and grandfather, you know, we'd all be baling hay. You know, it was a good farming, good upbringing that, you know, taught me a lot. But there was, you know, a lot of pain at the beginning. And, you know, I think for me, you know, hey, look, my parents, they got a divorce at a young age for me. You know, it was around 10, 11, 12-ish, you know, right around there that, you know, parents split up. And, you know, things got hard, things got challenging, things got difficult. And, you know, it wasn't normal. I knew it wasn't normal, but I think that I've always been the type of person that has been positive. And, you know, I'm the type of person that can bury my feelings into the ground so deep that you won't see them for years. Wow. I could erase things and people, you know, from my brain or thinking pattern. And I could do that from a very young age. And I don't know how, or I don't know why, but I always wanted to be able to help. And I've always wanted to be able to be positive, even when things get challenging, right? So when you talk about challenges, and a lot of people, when they hear my story, you know, well, I'll be having a couple of drinks with somebody and they'll ask me some questions and I'll kind of tell them about a little bit of my upbringing, and they'll be like, holy shit, like what? You know, like, what happened? You know, and it was crazy. It really was. I mean, from drugs to alcohol to fist fights to police at your home to craziness. And again, like I told you this before, is that, you know, I don't think that, you know, I would have changed a damn thing because it made me the person that I am. It made my family the people that they are. Because even with all this turmoil going on, to where this was a really bad marriage that broke up, and then both of these people went their separate ways and lived their lives, to where, you know, look, my father got remarried, had a wonderful wife with now other brothers added to the mix, which was great. But then we still lived with my mother that went in the other direction. And
were you
God bless her soul. Yeah.
Were you a single child, or you had other siblings?
Oh no, I was, so I had, you know, 3 siblings that I lived with, okay, that I grew up with. There was 4 of us, okay? So the story goes, and I mean, I guess we're going to get, you know, real deep into it, right? So to kind of rewind back to the late 70s, okay, so my mother left to move to Minnesota. And so she hooked up with this, you know, dude, right, over there in Minnesota, and they were, you know, kicking it off and whatnot, and got married, right? So she had this husband guy in Minnesota. So then my mother, on Valentine's Day, okay, flies back home to Michigan, right, where she grew up, and she meets up with my biological father, okay? Nice little one-night rendezvous, right? Little, you know, Valentine's, let's hook up, and boom, there I am. Okay, mother flies back, right? And I know she's gonna probably kill me for this, but mother flies back, you know, is pregnant, of course, with me, and, you know, continues with her life with this guy, and I'm born. Okay, so
you were meant to be.
More, yeah, okay. Well, so check it out, right? It gets better. It gets better. So flies over there, meets back up with this guy. Obviously, it didn't work out with him. Okay, so he bolts. Okay, that he, you know, I mean, he meets me and leaves me. Right, boom, I'm out. Whether he knew it was, you know, I was his son or I wasn't his son or whatever the case is, doesn't matter. So then mom comes back, right, to Michigan. Okay, so this guy that she went to school with, okay, that they had dated, okay, which is my father, okay, drives over with my uncle to go get me from Minnesota. Okay, so they bring me back. Okay, they start dating. Okay, they start dating. He adopts me. He takes me in as his own child. Okay, and raises me. Okay, awesome. Okay, well, those are the 2 that got the divorce. Okay, when it was, you know, 10, 11. You know, my parents, you know, and they'll probably be pissed for me saying this, at that time, okay, they loved each other so much that they could not get along at all. That's why they got a divorce, right? And they were both very passionate people, if that tells you anything. Both very strong-willed, stubborn individuals that would not back down from each other. So if it tells you, you know, when, you know, hey, shit's going down, shit's really going down, okay? But nonetheless, they break away, okay? My dad, again, marries this woman that's wonderful, has kids, brothers, right? So now I get 3 more brothers, okay? Which are, you know, cool guys. You know, look, you know, hey, I was very close with one of my brothers, still am, of course, because we're almost the same age, and then 2 other brothers as well. So they're living, you know, essentially this life. We're still living essentially with our mom. And my mom at that time was going through a rough spot in her life. Okay, a really, really low point. Okay, which, by the way, she's doing phenomenal now. Everything is wonderful. Okay, all my parents are kick ass. Okay, which we'll get into in just a second. So she goes on her way. Okay, and what I mean by on her way is that she had to really provide for us kids as a single mother. Okay, but a lot of boyfriends. You know, a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol, a lot of late nights, and a lot of me helping raise, you know, my brother and sisters. Okay.
Right.
My sister just underneath me at that time, she did a lot of the raising of my younger brothers and sisters because they were just itty bitties at that time, you know, 5, 6, something like that, around that age group. So it was a really rough time essentially for them more than us.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
So moral of the story here is things got difficult. Things got difficult. I remember, obviously, you know, hey, we would run out of kerosene in the wintertime. The heat would be done. Things would freeze in the home, including like the pipes. And, you know, you could throw some jackets on and some gloves and all that kind of stuff. But if you put a glass of water down, that glass of water was freezing. Okay. It was turning to ice. Okay. By the end of the day. It was cold, right? It was hard. And really, you know, it wasn't, you know, I mean, we survived, right? We lived. I guess that's back in the 80s and 90s, like still alive. I mean, I don't know if I would in today's day and era, but look, things got rough. You know, we were on welfare. I remember getting free lunch at school and being completely embarrassed that I got free lunch. I remember going to the grocery store that, you know, I then later worked at, you know, paying for food with food stamps and feeling, you know, absolutely horrible about that and really embarrassed. You know, I remember when, you know, kids got cool shoes and I got like imitation Jordashes, you know, like when the Reebok pumps came out, I got this like off brand of pumps and they wouldn't even pump, you know, I couldn't jump any higher with those, you know, because they wouldn't even inflate. You know, it was challenging, you know, and I think most of all, I think, and, you know, I hate to say this, but it was a huge learning lesson for me. I didn't think of it at the time. I didn't think of it, you know, it's just like when your parents tell you something and you're like, you know, tell them to F off, you know, like when you're a kid, it's like, yeah, whatever. But all this stuff was like really kind of taking me down this other path.
Right.
And I think what it did, I think all these combinations, and like I said, even though it sounds horrible, and it was, I mean, we had cops at our house on a regular, you know, for a long time, you know, when, you know, my mother was, you know, going through her rough times, you know, look, it was critical that we, you know, different boyfriends that had different issues with the law and doing, I mean, real, you know, it was horrible, this life, you know, but here's the thing. Everything happens for you,
right?
Instead of to you, right? So sometimes lessons don't come, you know, in nice packages. Okay. They come in, you know, valuable lessons of what not to do. So I learned some valuable lessons and over the years. Now, don't get me wrong. Both my mother and my father and even my biological father, they give me phenomenal life lessons. They've taught me to be the person that I am. They've molded me, whether it was biological or by, you know, just being brought up in these different types of environments. And again, you know, I want to be very clear, like all my work ethic, you know, all my work ethic comes from my mother and my father. They both worked extremely hard, you know, differences, of course, but, you know, that's what just really drives me, right? So these lessons that you learn, they suck, you know. I remember crying. I remember freaking out. I remember times to where my parents were screaming at each other and we don't know what's going on because you can't see anything. You're hiding in your room,
right?
You know, and then you hear crazy shit like gunshots. And then you're going, oh my God, who's dead?
Right.
You know, like you're thinking, which one is it? You know, and that's scary. You know, I feel bad for my younger brothers and sisters because that had to been horrible. Like I knew nobody was dead, really. I knew it didn't go that far, you know, but these are things that you remember, you know, growing up. And I mean, it could have been stupid. It could have been my parents had a fight and then mom went inside, shut the door, dad went outside, and then he started shooting at beer cans or something like that. Like, could have been something like that. But as a kid, you're thinking the fucking worst, excuse my French, you know, case scenario.
Especially if you're in such a chaotic home, your brain,
Yeah.
you're already expecting the worst, and then your imagination creates stories worse than what's happening. That happens all the time with domestic violence.
Yeah.
Like all the time you're in a room and you're like, oh my God, and you're traumatized by the story you in your mind, that you actually remember that more than the one that really happened. But that
well, and that's the thing, is that, you know, look, I mean, you know, as horrible as it was, you know, my parents did a great job of hiding quite a bit and sheltering us kids away from, you know, their disagreements. They really did. But you hear everything as a kid. You're inquisitive. You know, what's really going on? You only pick up on certain things, certain smells, certain feelings. So at that time you feel like it, but to me, it was kind of normal, right? I mean, so I think that over the years, I developed such a thick skin. And I think that a lot of people do out there, they develop this ability to absorb. And we were talking about this, you know, before, you know, today's call, you end up absorbing that energy a little bit. And it sometimes allows you to take on a bit of a, you know, I don't want to call it a superpower, but you get in the zone and you get in flight to where you really can take on anything. Mm-hmm. And I think if you're fast forwarding that, you know, look, even though that this was a hard upbringing and I had so much support, you know, and I'm sure a lot of these people are listening now, or they'll listen to this later and they'll remember the support that they gave me and my brothers and sisters and my family, and even my father, even my mother, even my biological father, because, you know, look, after a while of me, you know, essentially knowing, okay, what was going on in my family, I started to ask questions about, you know, hey, I knew for a fact, I look at my brothers and sisters, they're blonde hair and blue eyes.
Right.
Interesting. I'm not. I got to dye my hair to make it blonde, and, you know, I have brown eyes. So at a young age, I started to ask questions about, well, okay, so, you know, my dad raised me. I love him to death. You know, he taught me so much, you know, about life. He still does to this day. But, you know, I know biologically, I don't think, you know, everybody's tall too in my family, just to let you know. Okay. I'm like the short round, right? So short, you know, fat, dark hair, you know, nothing like everybody else. But anyhow, so whether I'm the black sheep or not, doesn't matter. I started to really look elsewhere. Well, here's a cool thing, right? So remember I told you about the one night stand that I was created. Well, you know, at the age of, God, this must have been 14, 15-ish, right around in that era, me and my buddy are going to this fair, this place called Fremont Fair. Right. Okay. And we're going there and we're going to meet up with, you know, his brother at the time, or, you know, stepbrother or whatnot. And, you know, his girlfriend, and then this other girl. And this other girl, okay, was my sister. Okay. But I didn't know it was my sister from my biological dad that lived 6 miles from me my entire life, and I didn't know it.
Wow.
Right? Isn't that crazy? Isn't that ridiculous? So
how did you guys figure out that was your sister?
So check this out. I had to ask permission from my mom. Well, and I really didn't need to ask permission. I mean, I really kind of told mom, hey mom, you know, this is me at 15. I'm going to go with Matt, and we're going to go here, you know, this and that. We'll be back at a halfway decent time. Okay, not a problem. She's like, who are you going with? And I told her, I said, I'm going with Becky Eck. And, you know, she goes, who? Becky Eck. I was like, what's the damn big deal? What's the problem here? You know, come on, mom, let's go. You know, by the way, I need a couple of bucks, you know, like, you know, I got to ride the Ferris wheel, you know, the whole 9 yards. She's like, I got to talk to you. Oh, you know, cracks open a bush light, sit down. Here we go. We got to change, you know? And I was just like, and I was pissed, you know, I was really upset because of maybe what I've, you know, kind of, you know, I've been left out in a way. Right. Yeah. And, you know, I've been lied to, you know, and more people the older that I get, the more and more that I ask questions, the more that I learn that there was more people that really knew, right? And I did not. So I think that there's certain tipping points to where you kind of, remember what I was talking about, absorbing people's energy so much and being so positive and being so uplifting and, oh yeah, let's do it and let's take care of everybody. That was my time to, kind of lose my shit, and I did. I was upset. I was pissed.
For how many years? For how many years were you losing it for? Like, how many years were you stuck in that part of frustration, anger?
I think right there at 15, I think that, I was starting to act out a little bit in school. I was starting to take some more risk and, getting into stealing shit for the adrenaline rush. Not even that I liked anything. I remember, we took the rims off this guy's vehicle in a parking lot at school, and we went to jail for it. We're 15 years old. They locked us up for that shit. And I was like, oh my God, we're scared little kids. This was me and my stepbrother, and, look, we got locked up for a day. Now we understand that it was a learned lesson, right? Of course, you're right. You do something like that. But I was acting out, and I was being a dick. I don't know how to say it, I was, a jerk.
You were angry.
I really was,
You were wanting to hurt everyone.
Yeah, angry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a nice guy. Like, I don't want to hurt anybody really, but I tell you what, like, you're not gonna tell me to do something. Like, I've heard enough. It's almost like I was in the point where, it was like super asshole, right? Like, get out of my way, and I kind of acted like that. Now, the good news is that, again, like I told you, as much as that was angering me, I had the right people around me. And, my parents at that time, they were changing and they were evolving and they were, slowly, getting better. Like I said, my dad got married. My other biological dad was already married. They were doing well, they were living their lives. There was, less bullshit and all that kind of stuff going on. So they were doing their thing. So things did get a little bit more.
They're maturing. They're also maturing. They were also getting older and maturing as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Your younger siblings, I must have gotten a piece of that, right? Of the more mature version of them, or no? Did that ever happen?
Yeah. I think, from time to time, right? Like everybody, I think everything has ebbs and flows, right? So everything goes good for a while and then shit gets real again, and things get bad, you run into these, kind of roadblocks. I think everybody, over the course of their life, I think usually about every 5 to really even 10 years, you kind of run, if you don't try to fix things and if you don't try to become better on a regular, then you kind of get into these 5 and 10 year stints where things just they might not go your own way. So there was ebbs and flows. My dad ended up divorcing that woman that we had brothers from, which is fine. Look, they didn't get along. No worries. They're moving on. I was way into, a college, I think at this time, specifically, and moving on. So, the good news is that 15, 16 mark, I really, things got a lot better,
Okay.
and I want people to understand that I took it as fuel or energy to then turn that into things like sports, things like wrestling and football. Things like, hey, look, I had a full-time job in high school. Like I said, we weren't rich. We were not wealthy. We were poor, but I made sure that I helped around the house. You know, I mean, look, we had a house, and my brothers and sisters, they weren't old enough to work. So I made sure that, you know, hey, look, I would bring home food. You know, I worked at this grocery store, you know, Gene's Family Market, right in Grant, Michigan. You know, I worked there for years. You know, when I was in high school, I actually made pretty good money, you know, there as a high school student that was even going to sports and, you know, or doing sports and things of that nature as well. You know, so things got good. And yeah, go ahead.
What do you think are some of your personality characteristics that helped you like go through that and come out like in a positive way? I mean, and I have my own idea, but I want to hear from you. Like, what do you think are what do you think mentally, your mental attributes that helped you get through that, like in that teenage time period where you were 16 and 17, you were doing better? I didn't think you'd be doing better at 16 or 17. I thought you're going to say it later, but.
Well, yeah, well, you know, better as in, you know, I guess semi-normal, you know, for the upbringing that my brothers and sisters and I had, and in the things that we've seen. I was actually getting back to being a little bit more normal, to where it just wasn't, you know, poor Clinton. It was like, okay, Clinton's taken something and turned it into a little bit of fuel. At least some passion or desire, right? So I think for me, two things. At that point in my life, there wasn't much that I hadn't seen or thought about or felt or been in some horrible situations. There ain't much that can faze me beyond that, right? I mean, okay. You'd be better off rocking me on watching, you know, like America's Got Talent, and some awesome singer on there would put me to tears before normal shit would. And I think that you develop such a thick skin when you see things and you absorb that energy, to where I really feel as though that I can take bad and make it good. I can take junk and make it better. And my wife gets pissed because I'll pick up stuff on the side of the road if I think that I can turn that into a pretty cool little art piece. Or, you know, but I'm dead serious. That's kind of my mentality, is that, you know, look, if you give me an excuse, I'm going to laugh at you. It doesn't matter what it is. You could tell me, look, the doctor said I got 30 days to live. What should I do? How about let's go for a fucking run? You know, like, then you need to live. Then you need to breathe like you were a kid again, right? And you were running very fast.
So you're super resilient, but you're also, by the way, I was laughing because Laura says that the fan over your head looks super cool.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a sombrero, right?
Yeah, it's going right over your head. But what I was saying is that you're super resilient, but one of the characteristics that you're describing is your ability to look at the positive even under the worst conditions. So the metaphor is that junk on the street that you're like, you know what? You have a vision for it. Like, you actually have a vision and say, you know what? I could turn that into a masterpiece. And not everyone is able to do that. So that's definitely one thing that you had that maybe you don't even realize you had, that you were able to see the positive and see a way out. Because if you don't have a vision for the way out, if you don't have a vision for what could be, then you stay in victim mode. And I think that's something that really helps.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that, you know, I mean, going back to, you know, at the time to where it was, in Malcolm Gladwell talks about this, a tipping point. Okay, a tipping point at that point was an elevation up, right? That's a particular time that you can remember that took place in your life, to where you had to look yourself in the mirror and say, look, some things need to change. Yeah. And I remember not doing so hot, you know, especially in my first 2 years in high school, right? Like, way behind. And that's because of everything that was going on, maybe, sure, but it just wasn't a part of the lifestyle to study. It was more work, you know, it was more, I need to be able to, you know, bring home some cash. I need to be able to pay for the things that I need, my vehicle, my insurance on the vehicle. And look, my parents, they helped out whatever they could, but, I had to do a lot of that. And I remember going into the guidance counselor, and you had to have a meeting with the guidance counselor to kind of figure out what you wanted to do. Do you want to go to college? It's usually right at the end of that sophomore year. It's like, do you want to go to college? Are you going to go to a trade school? What are you going to do? And I remember talking with a guidance counselor, and he was kind of a dick. Okay. He was just kind of like, yeah, so, definitely do something with your hands. Definitely, do something, you're working at the grocery store now, maybe do something with that. And I could tell, like, he was trying to be nice to me, but he wasn't lifting me up. He was not putting this vision in my head of that I had a future and that I could do this. He was just, and come to find out that, my dad went to the same high school as me, and my dad gave him a real hard time. Right. So he was maybe taking it out on me a little bit and in whatever he was doing. Right. So anyways, for me, I tell you, I got so pissed and so fired up when he told me that you're just better find to do something with your hands, or maybe, he was like, he was belittling me.
Yeah,
I was offended. I was offended. I was pissed. I was like, you know what, asshole, I'm going to fucking show you. And I remember thinking, like, school's not that goddamn hard. All you got to do is just study. All you got to do is do your homework, like they say, right? And not like do your homework right before the class, right? Like, I knew there was a way, and I got fired up about it, and I did the best I could.
But yes. You know what? This proves what you said a little while ago. Things happen for you, because that happened for you. That needed to happen for you, because you know what happened? You got tried. You got so tried. You're like, wait, what? You're like, I'm going to school. I'm going to get a doctorate degree. That's funny. That's
well, I mean, look,
things happen for you.
And that. Exactly. And it did. It got me fired up. And, look, I didn't, go off to be some scholar. I didn't go off and get this huge GPA from this big ass school. As a matter of fact, I struggled. Look, I mean, we talk about, going in a direction and having ebbs and flows, is that, look, I went off to college, and I'll be honest with you, it was awesome. Especially at first, I was like, holy shit. This is like, I mean, I come from a very small, town, and going to college was like, I mean, it's like, going to the candy store. It was great. It was phenomenal. And people ask me, hey, where'd you go to school? I mean, no, where did I go to party, or where did I go to school?
Well,
right. And so I went to a small school, is where I started off in Michigan, at Ferris State University, which is a great school in Big Rapids, Michigan. I went there for a couple years, just about 3 years or so. And to be honest with you, I mean, I partied my ass off. I barely went to school. When I finally got my shit straightened out, and started actually going to class and getting my credits and everything like that, I had a lot of ground to make up. So it cost me money. And, I remember selling my vehicle just to pay, to be able to take my exams and be able to get as many credits out of there as I possibly could, but then even then, right. So, even to make the story, worse on myself, is that what was happening when I got into the partying zone, okay, is I was having a good time, sex, drugs, rock and roll. Okay. I was a member of a fraternity, and we partied our ass off. We did drugs. We had a blast. Okay. But the problem with that is that, what's that?
Typical college life.
Yeah. I mean, it was great.
Yeah.
No, don't get me wrong. We did do some studying there. Okay. And being a member of the fraternity, was awesome. I mean, the brotherhood, that I was able to gain from that, and the relationships that I was able to gain from that, was phenomenal. So, you know me, I'm going to look at everything glass half full. You know, I'm going to be optimistic about it. So what did I learn there? A lot. I learned tons. A lot of book smarts, not so much. Okay. Do I remember teachers' names? Absolutely not. I remember, you know, people in my class and having a good time, and it was a blast. So then I actually had to leave college because I ran out of money, and I had to go back and live with my grandparents in my small hometown again, you know, back in Grant, Michigan. And I had to go, and I call my grandparents' place like rehab. Okay. Because you go there and there's like nothing but watching the news in the woods, and it's quiet, like so quiet you can't sleep at night. It was absolutely crazy, but my brain and my body and my soul needed it. I needed a reset. I needed a reboot. And when I went back, I was able to, you know, do a lot of online classes, you know, get the GPA back up, actually finish out with a degree from a good university. And then I went to go do an internship down in South Florida. Well, not even South Florida, down in Orlando. So we talked about a tipping point, right? So when I left college, okay, to tell you kind of how bad the partying scene was, is I left to go after everybody graduated. Okay, so everybody's having these graduation little parties and get-togethers, and we're getting smashed and we're doing drugs and the whole 9 yards. So I wake up at this house, okay, and I don't know where this house is at in the morning. Okay. And this is like in May. Okay. In May. It's one of those like, oh my God, where am I at? Like, what is happening? What's going on? And I remember I remember reaching into my pocket and pulling out like this thing that was like this a money clip. Okay. And on the top it screwed off, and you put cocaine in there. Okay. Okay. And I remember like looking at it and seeing how much was left. And I looked, and it was like wiped clean. So I'm like, okay, that was a great night. Okay, phenomenal, great, awesome. But I'm walking, and there was this unmarked car that was like creeping behind me on my walk all the way back to the fraternity house. And it was, you know, the FBI. Okay. And I never had an interaction with them. They were following me. I could see that they were following me. Officers got out of the vehicle. They went around. They were looking at all this kind of stuff. But I remember getting all the way to the fraternity house and knowing these people are behind me, being just like paranoid as all hell. And it was a tipping point for me. I said, you know, Jesus Christ, what are you doing? Like, here you are. Everybody else has graduated and gone home. You're still in the party school. You know, you're getting followed. Okay, you just came from a house you don't know what, and you know that you were doing drugs. Like, what happened last night? We don't know. You know, and I called and I cried, you know, to my grandfather. I said, look, I got to come home. I need a place to stay. I need to get out of here. I need to come back. I need to do something. It was a tipping point. Another one. You know, if I would have stopped at somebody else's house and smoked a bowl or drank a beer or something like that, I don't know if any of that would have happened. But I had to go home. So I went home. Like I said, rehab, no drugs, no alcohol, you know, actually wonderful food. You know, my grandmother was just cooking me food. I mean, I must have probably gained 10 pounds, which I needed it because I was all, you know, coked up skinny, right? Not good. Came home and then really, immersed myself into education again. And being in my grandfather's home, anybody that knows my grandfather, I mean, he had this gigantic bookcase, staircase that went up. I mean, every book that you can think of, this man had. So it was really good for me. And it fixed me, right? And it fixed me for that tipping point, right? That stage in my life. And a good friend of mine actually was like, hey, look, dude, they're doing internships and we get to move down to Orlando and go work for Disney. He's like, what do you think about that? And I was like, dude, I have my degree in exercise science. I'm not going to Disney World to go work. Like, what am I going to do there? And he's like, he goes, I gotcha. He goes, they have Disney's Wide World of Sports. and they have the Atlanta Braves that do their spring training there. He goes, you can get a job there. And I was like, okay. I was like, now you're talking. You know, if I get to work with a professional sports team, I get to work with them doing sports medicine, exercise science, exactly what I was studying, exactly what I was all about. I get to help people. I get to do, wow, that sounds great. Where do I sign up? So you got to go through this process to get approved and all that kind of stuff. But we did. And I remember it. I mean, it was snowing on a December. And I told my grandfather, I said, look, you know, I got accepted to go to this Disney college program and I'm going. Where's that at? No, I said, it's in Orlando. He's like, Florida? I was like, yep. He's like, okay. And I'll be honest with you, there was people that were in my life that didn't believe me. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. See ya. You know, I'll see you, you know, see you back in a week or, you know, whatever it was.
Yeah, that sounds like a made-up story. I'm going to Disney College, guys.
Yeah, well, listen, you know, look, I want to be realistic to tell you, like, it was, you know, one of the hot shots. You know, for my buddy of mine he was a partier. Okay, so it's not like we didn't have fun when we went down, but it wasn't like anything before. Okay, yeah. This was like normal people partying, you know, having a couple of beers, a couple of glasses of wine. This wasn't, you know, blowing lines and, you know, taking ecstasy pills and blinking lights and shit like that. It wasn't that bad, not all the time, at least.
How old were you at this point? How old were you at this point?
So this point, I was 22 years old. Yeah, 22, or I think 22 or just turned 23. I might have just turned 23 at this point. You know, and I left, you know, we left. It was a cold day. I remember it was snowing and I was just like, said to my grandfather, I'm out. You know, he slipped me a 50. He's like, buy yourself some food. And I'm like, all right, thank you. You know, I'm out of here. You know, and then I came down and I worked for Disney, and it was a, you know, a very short internship. It didn't really last very long. It was pretty silly. Like you pretty much worked for peanuts, like to pay the rent. Like after they took out everything, you got like $30 check per week, and you're like, okay, let's go drink. You know, let's go have, you know, let's go have a good time. So it kind of sucked for a while, but then there was a turning point, right, or a tipping point. We got booted out of the program. We had a party and a buddy of ours got kicked out of the program prior and camped out on our couch. And he camped out with a big old bag of weed in his pocket. And they go and raid places in Disney, okay, because they don't want any bad stuff going on there. So they came in, they raided it. There was weed. Right. And I had gotten a DUI in college. And so they pulled my record and they're like, oh, look, you got a DUI, you know, so they're like, you're out, you know, and I was like, shit, we're out on the streets. So me and my buddy from New York, right. He lived with us. He was like our roommate there. We got, you know, shit canned. Right. So Disney booted us out. Luckily, they gave us our credits for our internship, you know, which they were nice, you know, so that way we didn't have any negative, you know, education marks, you know, nonetheless. But so they booted us out and we're out on the streets. We're like, what do we do? Like, we got to live in, you know, in the car or whatever the case is. We had a tote. I had a big plastic tote with all the shit that I owned in that one tote. Man. Yeah, it was rough. And so a buddy of mine, he knew this girl that did the Disney college program prior to us. And she's like, look, yeah, I'm actually looking for a couple of roommates. You know, you guys got to pay rent and all that kind of stuff. We're like, yeah, sure. We'll get in there. Neither one of us had a job. So we're like, oh, yeah. You know, we'll move in, all that kind of stuff. And we brought in everything that we owned in like 2 totes in a box. She's like, so yeah, well, where's your furniture? Where's the moving person or whatever the case is? And we're like, yeah, we don't really got any of that. So I remember piling up clothes to make a mattress type situation, or like a bean bag with like all your clothes around you to sleep in. We went and got a mattress on the floor. It was great. But that was a point to where, you know, essentially we were on our own. So everything turned out really good because the next day my buddy's like, look, you know, we're going to go ahead and go get a job. And I'm like, yeah, okay. You know, I'm going to do personal training. you know, I don't really want to do bartending or anything like that. He's like, well, I want to go get this job, you know, being at least, you know, a waiter or something like that in this cool Italian restaurant. And this is on I Drive in Orlando. Okay. So this is really real big hot spot. I was like, all right, I'll go in there. I'll go check it out. So I go check it out and we're sitting and I was like, you know what? I'll have a Peroni. You know, I was like, screw it. I got $30 left from Disney. I was like, give me the best beer you got. You know, I'll take one of those. So I'm sitting at the bar and this girl walks in. This girl walks in and she's a beautiful, I mean, this exotic, like curly, long hair, beautiful eyes, walks by, great ass. I'm like, oh, hey. I was like, wow, I like that. She starts talking and she's got like this South African accent. And I'm like, I was like, man, I liked it. Does she work here? Yeah. Give me an application. It's like, I thought you weren't good. I was like, come on. I was like, they'll hire me. I was like, come on. I got a lot of experience with this. I was like, because I bartended in college. So I'm like, come on, give me an application so I could talk to this girl. Okay. Well, that girl is my wife. That is exactly how we met. Okay. So it's another tipping point in my life. My wife changed me. I followed her around. She told me, no, you can't have my phone number. I bought her a cell phone. Okay. She said, no, I'm not going to date you. I don't want people to know that I'm associated with you. You know, I would chase her around all over like a puppy dog, right? That woman was mine. Okay. This was a tipping point in my life, right? So we ended up, you know, getting married, happily married for 16 years. But my wife grounded me at that point. And what I don't mean is like ground, like you ground your kids, like grounded me to give me something more than myself to live for. You know, kind of like when I was back, you know, in the farmhouse, you know, helping taking care of my brothers and sisters, is that I absorbed all sorts of negative energy to be able to take care of them, to be able to somehow make it be okay, even for the situation that we were in. And she did that for me. And of course I fell in love, and of course, you know, happily ever after. But at that point, I was able to now transform myself into now a different version. Okay. And I kind of look at it like this was a stepping stone for me, because now I can do, like, when all of my buddies were getting all these cool jobs out of college to where they're getting all these nice, good executive jobs, you know, I felt that now it's my turn. Why? Because not only am I going to take care of my wife and she, you know, makes me a better person, is now it's time to turn on the afterburners. Right. So this is when I really started my journey into not only the fitness industry, but as an executive with the largest health club chain in the world. Okay. LA Fitness. I started in 2003 in 2003 in Orlando, Florida. I started off, I went in there. I was actually working at a World's Gym. And this was a tipping point in my career, is I was working at World's Gym and we were doing a great job at World's Gym. We were kicking ass. It was an awesome gym. Everything was good. But then LA Fitness opened up a brand new LA Fitness down the road. And literally all of our business went gone. And I'm like, okay, what do we do now? You know, and my wife said, look, let's just drive by. Let's just go look at this gym and just see what it's like. You don't have to make any decisions. You don't have to do anything. Just go check it out. I went and there was a line out the door of people that wanted to join. Okay. People that wanted to get started. There was a line out the door. It was, I was like, oh my God. I was like, I'm going to sign up all those people. I was like,
I remember that time period. I remember, you know, when LA Fitness was the thing, there would be so many people going there. I remember that time.
Oh, it was ridiculous. And remember, this is the early 2000s, you know, to where, you know, our economy was banging pretty hard at this point. I mean, we were crushing it, you know, in the world. I mean, things were really, really rocking and rolling. So, you know, I started with a company and I resigned from World Gym that day. I wrote them a letter and I said, look, I'm out, you know, and it hurt me. I mean, it killed me because I'm such a loyal individual. Like if I go to work for something or someone, you know, I'm there, you know, like I'm ride or die, right? Like that's just how I was built. You know, My parents instilled that in me growing up, is that you work your ass off, right? So it was really tough for me to leave, but then I jumped in to LA Fitness, and I was like, look, I need a trainer job. I was like, I'm the best you've ever seen. I got my degree. The whole 9 yards, they're like, yeah, we're full. We got no jobs. I was like, you got to be shitting me. Like, I quit my other job. Like, you guys got a line out the door. They're like, yeah, that's sales. And I was like, sales? I was like, I don't know if I'm very good in sales. And they're like, okay, well, they're like, that's the only jobs that we have. And I was like, all right, I'll take it. You know, what do I got to do? And I started off in sales, and I really became a student of sales at that point, and leadership and management, because it was attached to my paycheck, and because it was attached to my mission. And my mission was to help as many people that I possibly could and make as much money as what I possibly could in the process. Okay. So when you fast forward, you know, I had opportunities. Look, I had an opportunity to go from, you know, Orlando, Florida, and then move down to Hollywood, Florida, to start a pre-sale center. And that was a pre-sale for the LA Fitness. Right. And we busted our ass for a year in the pre-sale, you know, crushing the numbers, and to be able to start the Hollywood location. And at that point, you know, look, I was 23 at the time. I was making more money than I ever thought was possible in the fitness industry. Hand over fist, more money than my parents have ever made, more money than my grandparents ever made. You know, it was like big money. And I did that for a long time until the next tipping point.
What was the next one?
What the next tipping point was, you know, is everything was great. Okay. And I really want to be 100% clear that LA Fitness, as far as a company and a corporation, has given me more than any educational institution, you know, combined. I mean, they're giving me more as far as learning in business and structure and sales, and the people that I was surrounded by were phenomenal. They were way better than me, which made me a way better version of me. Right. Okay. So it was awesome. But what happened and what took place is that deep down feeling of something else was there. See, I'm one of these people that I don't get bored easy, but I'm blissfully dissatisfied. And what that means is that if I get to a certain point, I moved up from a salesperson to an assistant manager, from an assistant manager to a general manager, from a general manager to a vice president, to more of a senior vice president role in a very short period of time. I developed hand over fist, you know, thousands literally of sales professionals and leaders and managers over these years to climb up the corporate ladder, because right. I thought that that's what success was. Okay. So I was along for the ride. Right, you know, right. I was there. Right. So I remember going through this, and it really wasn't until my daughter was born to where I experienced a little bit of discomfort. And when my daughter was born, I remember feeling like, holy shit, like this is, you know, this is pretty hard. You know, like, I mean, I was so engulfed into my business and so engulfed into LA Fitness and the corporate lifestyle, and, you know, going from place to place and staying in hotels and driving and talking on the phone and doing all this kind of stuff. I thought I had reached what I thought was where I wanted to actually be. And when my daughter was born, I remember one day coming home on a Friday night. I came home and I just got into an argument with this asshole boss that I had in LA Fitness. And I won't name his name, and just in case he's watching, but everybody will know who I'm talking about. I had this argument with him. You know, I wanted to leave a little bit early on a Friday night, like literally 30 minutes, right? I was actually at my old club, the Hollywood location on Sheridan and 56. And I wanted to drive out by Sheridan and Flamingo. And I wanted to beat the bullshit traffic there on a Friday night. I just wanted to get home.
I used to go to that gym.
Yeah.
I know where you're
talking about. Seen each other. back in the day. So here I am.
Work out there.
What's that?
The Rock used to work out there.
Oh
remember?
yeah, oh yeah, he used to be there. Dwayne Johnson. I actually have a somewhere in my office. I have a signed copy of him.
That's too funny.
Yeah,
all the time too.
Oh yeah. So here I am on my way home, and this jerk calls me. We get into an argument or whatever. He's pissed because I'm leaving early because his life absolutely sucks, and he doesn't want anybody else to have any sort of life. Nonetheless, I really was like, holy shit, like this guy's really giving me a hard time about this. And, yesterday I worked 13 hours. The day before that, 14. Mondays are always a big day in the fitness industry. I think I put in, 12, 15 hours that day. Who knows? I was that type of worker, right?
Right.
So it was like the first little wake up calls, like, wow, here we go. Well, I walked in the door, and I'll never forget this. I walk in the door, and my wife goes, here. She hands our daughter to us, or to me. And I'm like, okay, can you give me a minute? Like, listen, I worked my ass off this week. You got to give me a second. Like, let me get a beer. Let me have a seat, and then I'll take her. And I wasn't doing anything intentionally, but I was given this asshole type vibe to her. Like, look. And I think I said something like, look, I work all fucking week long. Like, seriously? Like, you're going to give me,
I already know where this is going. I already know where this is going.
Right? She let me have it. And you know what? I deserved it. I really did deserve it, because here my wife was, barely able to take a shower or take a bath. And that's what she wanted to do. She's like, just take her for a minute. I want to take a shower. I just need some alone time. And for me, I was all wrapped up in this corporate America shit where I'm like, really, babe? Like, that's the biggest problem you have, not taking a shower? Well, what up? I had to fire 5 people today. I was like too hot shot, macho-y, manly, egotistic. I was there, and why? Because, look, I got a lot of praise for being a young person in that position. I was cocky. I was a little bit arrogant. And, look, it set me back to where my wife told me, she's like, you want to be a VP? Be a VP here first. When you walk in that door, you be a VP here. And you know what? She told me, And I was like, holy shit, like, you're right. You're right. So from that day forward, she was absolutely right. When I walked in the house, I did my best to be super dad. I did my best to be super husband. I had good talks with my wife. We communicated on a regular. I said, you know what? I am going to be a kick-ass father. You're right. So now it was me walking in like, give me that little shit. Like, come on, let's go. Like, hey, babe, go do your thing. Go do that. And it kind of changed things. It was a tipping point, right?
Yeah.
We start to learn, but it was the first chink in the armor of corporate America that I saw that opened up like this, just this little hole to where I'm like, wait a minute, what is this about here? What is taking place? So then shortly afterwards, if I'm going to fast forward, my wife's dad got very sick. He had cancer. My wife is from Mozambique, Africa. So it's a long trip away. And her and my daughter went to go spend some time with her dad, okay, because it was pretty bad. Okay, so he was getting chemo treatments, and it was just a real rough time. So my wife had said, hey, look, she goes, I know you want to work anyways. She's like, I'm going to go. I'm going to take Michaela, our daughter. We're going to go to Africa. We're going to spend some time there. And I said, okay, not a problem. I'll work. Well, right then I got promoted to move from South Florida up to Detroit, Michigan.
Oh, wow.
Okay, which pissed my wife off something fierce at the beginning, because I kind of said yes without even talking to her. I said, yeah, we'll go. Well, me, like, yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I'm from there. Everything will be fine. Well, I didn't really ask my wife. I didn't even really run it by her. I just kind of assumed that she would be okay with it because she was dealing with her dad and their issues. Well, obviously that wasn't, the best, but whatever, we got over it. We're, a great couple. So it worked. And, I went to Detroit, Michigan, and, things were very challenging there. In Detroit was not a market that I was used to at all. I was used to South Florida, where, you know, you got millions of people all over the place. It was just a totally different market. And it was challenging, but we did a great job. You know, I was definitely engulfed. And what took place is that, remember, my wife was gone, and she was almost gone a total of 2 years. Okay. When you're talking about a 3 to 4 year period, she went back and forth quite a bit until finally her dad had passed. And, you know, she was there, you know, taking care of some family affairs. So we were apart, you know, quite a bit during this time. But I kind of made the mistake, and I shouldn't say a mistake because everything happens for us. But when she was gone, I turned it up as high as I possibly could, the volume. And what I mean from that is I dumped everything I had into the company. I dumped everything I had into spending time in the gym. I spent too much time in the gym, not only just working out after work, but, you know, emails and phone calls and doing that, and not even eating. I mean, when my wife came home the first time, I had lost like 25 pounds. And she's just like, oh my God. She's like, you're sick. She's like, something's wrong with you. And I was like, no, I've just been drinking coffee and not eating a lot. I've been working, you know, and I totally got engulfed in that, and totally got engulfed with that. And, you know, my performance started to suffer from it. You know, I mean, it was very challenging to do well when you didn't have, number one, I didn't have my family with me. I didn't have my daughter and my wife. You know, these are two components of my life that if they're good, I'm better. Okay. So if they're taken care of, like, I'm on fire, like there's nothing that gets in my way. But if I don't know, and if I can't be there to hold them and touch them and feel them, then I have a complete anxiety. Right. And I did at that time, but I was, instead of using drugs and alcohol, I was working. And I was spending time in the workplace. And it, to be honest with you, it really essentially turned me off when this happened. So the tipping point is that I needed to go to Africa to pick up my wife and daughter. I wanted to go there. I wanted to see the family, pay my respects, and then fly back with them, you know, back from Mozambique, back to the States.
Right.
And I remember a high executive with the company had told me, you know, Clinton, I don't think that you should go. Now is not the right time for you to go. Now, meanwhile, you got to understand that I'm putting in 16-hour days, you know, busting my ass for the company, not, you know, taking any days off, working through Sundays, the whole 9 yards, you know, doing all this. And all I wanted was just like 2 weeks. Right, to be able to go. And he was telling me it's not the right time. He goes, this is going to be career suicide for you. Wow. And when he said that to me, I was like, wow, all that? And you're not going to let me go spend time with my family? You know, strike two. Right. Right. And I was just like, and that one hurt me. That one hurt me because I was in a bad place. You know, I was in this state of, I gave way too much to the relationship. Right, with that company, I gave everything I had to where it really was a negative, you know. And at that point there, I don't want to say that I gave up, but my passion and my desire was not there anymore. It was like, oh, okay, it's time to go home. Goodbye. You know, I mean, I was like every other employee. They're like, fuck you, it's time for me to leave. No holidays, I couldn't work them, you know.
You just felt betrayed. You felt betrayed.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You know, but here's what I'll tell you. Okay. So with these different tipping points that take place, there's always a lesson to be learned. And there's always a wake up call. And there's always a looking at yourself in the mirror and breaking down. And I remember, you know, going through this is that, you know, look, I continued to work for LA Fitness for a long time after that. Not a long time, but you know, a few years, you know, where I went through the motions for a few years. And because they actually did like me as an individual, and because I am talented, I was able to get by, but my heart wasn't in it. And the love for the game was just no longer there. I didn't give a shit because I knew now that I was a number in corporate America, that if I leave tomorrow, they'll replace me by the end of the day.
So
And I knew this.
is this the tipping point when this realization, was this the tipping point where you then became Provoke coach and created this enterprise of where you're helping? Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, so then how did this turn into the tipping point of Provoke coach?
Yeah. So I had went back to running essentially from a VP position. I had gone into a role of just running one LA Fitness, okay, the one in Wellington, Florida. And again, just because they liked me and they knew who I was, they gave me this position, probably knowing damn well that, I had probably 1 foot out the door. Okay. It was kind of that ambiance, if you will. Okay. I wasn't a jerk about it. Look, I'm all about helping people. So I couldn't be mean to people. I couldn't be a dick. I was just, at that point, I was spending so much time with my family and my daughter and my loved ones and just doing me that I found myself, that I really started to find myself. Like, being in a gym for 20 years, I fucking hated working out in the gym. I hated it. It drove me nuts. You know why? Because I was seeing everything that was wrong that we could improve in the gym. Right. So I started working out at home. And my wife and we bought this house out in 𝐓𝐸𝐿𝐄, which, if you know, it's like you get acreage out here, right? So you get property out here. So I started to go back where I came from. I started to go back, and it's not a farming community out here by any means, but, look, our neighbors have chickens. Right. And I hear the cock-a-doodle-doo every morning. Right. And so I started to kind of find myself again, and started to really work out my butt off. Right. And do all these things that I really wanted to do. Yes.
You know what's funny? I grew up in Hialeah, and we have chickens everywhere.
That's Hialeah, though. Yeah, that's different. Exactly. Yeah, but when we moved out here, when we moved back to South Florida, we were in Detroit at the time, and I remember this. I was talking to my wife on the phone, and I had heard through the grapevine. I said, "Babe, I think I'm going to be moved again." I said, "I what do you want me to say?" And she goes, "Ask me if it's any place except for Florida." She goes, "If they ask us to go to Florida, just say yes and let's go. Because we got to get out of here. It's cold here. I don't like it here, the whole 9 yards." And I was like, okay. So boom, we got back down to South Florida. I was actually in Detroit, and I slipped and fell on a piece of ice. And I remember laying there on the ground, just saying, fuck this, this sucks. And then I get a phone call from the owner, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go to Florida?" I was like, "Yes. I'll take it." Like, I remember hanging up going, "Yeah, here we go."
You know what? Wait up! I have to do this again. This is like your story. Things happen for you. For everything that you're mentioning has happened for you, and not to you. You're such an example of that. Even falling on the ice. Yeah. Falling on the ice made you think about, like, you know what? I got to get out of here. This is it.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of will yourself in a way. And I really, truly feel, that, vibrations are real. Okay. Attraction is real, but also projection is real. When you project in the marketplace, when you project in the world, and you're so off, on the offense, that really nothing can faze you. That's where, thick skin comes from, and when, we finally moved out here and we finally kind of got our roots in the ground, is that when, look, I remember having a conversation with my wife one night, and she told me, she said, Clinton, she said, "If you want to leave, leave." She goes, "I can see it. You're done. You're checked out. Like, you're not even having fun anymore." She's like, it's time for you to walk away. And just the same as she did, when I was working at World's Gym and came to LA Fitness, that day, that night, I wrote my resignation letter and I walked away, and I didn't even have anything else lined up. I had a couple contracts that people were looking at me. I had this couple that actually brought me on, for a minimal contract. to focus our efforts on their sales, performance. And I got a couple other contracts, along the way, and things started to really evolve. And I started to I remember being a VP with LA Fitness. And the only thing that I really loved about the job that I missed was training and developing people to become better versions of themselves. Now, whether that was sales or that was management or leadership or customer service, I remember just enjoying it. I remember taking people that, were kind of not bums on the street, but, these young kids that had nothing, and, teaching them sales and management and leadership. And then all of a sudden they're, running this multi-million-dollar facility and making all this money. And I remember thinking, like, that's what I love to do. I love to develop and train people and put them and coach them right into where they want to be. Now, my style is provoking, because I don't put up with shit. Because remember, my resilience to pain is not like other people's. And it's not that I'm hiding. I mean, look, we all have our ebbs and flows, but I use my passion for health and fitness and exercise and making people better on a regular basis. That's how I relieve that pain, right? That's how I get excited. That's what really kind of takes, that energy, away, that negative energy, and really project that on other people and really provoke them to do the things that we need them to do. Right, and, right. That's really giving back. The main, staple in my business is really our Provoke principles. And, okay. I use acronyms a lot in business, especially because it's easier to teach. But our Provoke principles, the P in Provoke, right, that stands for purpose. Okay, do you live your life on purpose, and do you live your life with purpose? Okay, the R, right, in Provoke is results. Do you live your life getting results? Do you do things and get results? Okay, and how do you know? Do you even take score? Right? Are you keeping tally? And it doesn't mean keeping tally financially or with the cars you drive or with the houses you buy or anything like that. It's not what we're talking about. Do you get results in all areas of your life? Right? Okay. So the O, right, in Provoke, at least the first one, right, is opportunities. Do you take advantage of opportunities when they present themselves? See, things like COVID, right, where people lost their job. Did they start a new job? Did they really finally start that company that they've been thinking about, doing, right? That's provoking, but there's an opportunity. Take advantage of it, right? The V, value. Do you add value? Okay, not only to the people that are around you, but what about other businesses? What about the marketplace? What about social media? Are you adding value on a regular basis? Right, the second O, obsession. We talked about this, I think, on your live the other day, obsession, right? Are you obsessed? Like when I walk around the house with this shirt on, by the way, I mean, my wife says I stink because I'm always wearing the Provoke shirts, right? It comes from my company, of course, but I'm wearing it because I'm obsessed with it. Everything is Provoke, right? Everything. And, hey, the K in Provoke is knowledge. Are you constantly starving for knowledge? And are you giving knowledge, right? Because if you know all these things, are you at least teaching somebody else and giving them this knowledge that you know? Right. And then the E is execution. And that's probably my biggest one. Are you executing the play? Are you doing what you said you were going to do? Are you following through? Because everybody has ideas. Everybody knows what's wrong, but they don't ever do anything about it. So you got to execute. And those are the principles that not only do I teach my business owners, right, and CEOs of companies, is that we teach their team. And we teach individuals this as well. Really because remember, life happens for you, right? Rather than to you. Everybody can blame something, but look, what are you doing about it?
Do you have a curriculum? Have you developed a curriculum from this?
Yeah, so I have a lot of stuff that is coming up in the future, right? So yeah, we do have a training program. I just purchased an app that the developers are working on. Just did that the other day. So
Oh,
that's
awesome.
going to be coming up. Yeah, it's going to help out a great deal of things, especially for daily activities and things that you should be doing on a daily basis in order to, provoke positive change in your own life, but in business as well. So we
That's
have, we have the app coming. The podcast is coming up, right? So that's going to be happening in December. I promised myself that I would get everything finished by the end of the year that I wanted to really roll out for 2020. So we've been able to do a lot of that already with our website. We've been able to finish that with Provoke Print. I've been able to set up that. All the designs are almost complete with Provoke Print, which is going to be pretty cool. I got a lot of cool hats. I got hoodies coming out.
cool.
I got Provoke gear and merch, which is pretty neat. And remember, all of this stuff, okay, goes to one opportunity, and that's to provoke positive change in people's life. Remember, the financial part of all this, I'm not really concerned. I've made great money in my lifetime, and that did not make me 100% happy and fulfilled. I made money, I spent money, a lot of it, and that's great and everything. Look, I make a good living of what I do, no lie. But what's important to me is that instead of, me being impressed by me making millions of dollars, I want to really crank up how many millions of dollars that we can give back to these charitable organizations and what kind of impact that we can really make with the people out there, because they're hurting. Especially, people think of like, oh my God, this whole COVID thing. I talk to business owners all day. Well, it's not like the year it was last year. Well, yeah, but what about the homeless? You think they're having it rough right now? Right? You think that, the children are having it rough right now? Our youth right now, because of online learning, they're missing out these huge opportunities right now. So when you think you have it bad, think about it. There's somebody that has it a lot worse. And in a lot of cases, they're a lot happier, right? So think about that, for a second. So
That's
we're
true.
able to actually, produce everything funnels into being able to provide to these charitable organizations. Like I said, it's our protectors, which are everybody that is in, fire department, medical staff, EMTs, police officers and military. Okay. You have the homeless. Okay. You have the children. You have our planet. Okay. We got to be green. Okay. It's the only planet that we have, right? And our pets and livestock. Okay. Which are extremely important as well. So I have something for everybody. If you've noticed, it's like, wow, that's a lot of charities. No, these are charitable groups. Okay. If you want to be local, so a lot of our clients are like, well, I want to be able to give locally to provide to my charity that I want to be able to. That's cool. Let's do it. We're going to do it together, and we're going to make a big deal about it, which is pretty neat. I've worked with a lot of business owners that have never given back before
Right.
they got a chance to work with me and my team, which is pretty cool. We've forced them to give back, but now guess what? They have all sorts of gratitude that they're giving, and not to me, but back into the community. Now
That's awesome.
they're donating their time, they're donating their money. And remember, guys, it's not just about money, being able to donate, because not everybody is in a financial situation where they can give millions or thousands or even hundreds of dollars. That's okay. But what it's really about is not so much the money, but how much time and effort can you put into really giving back. If you can donate time, that's just as powerful, if not more powerful than money alone.
That's such a great message. That's such a great, I love how you have implemented that into Provoke Coach, because when I talked to you, remember, I thought like, wow, I never thought of you this way, because I see the image you put out, is the rooster image that you're talking about, but
Right.
you're such a caring and compassionate person as well. But, I'm not saying that you look like a jerk. I'm just saying you look so tough that it's hard to hear it that way. But
Well,
I want
yeah.
in your story, I was writing down points about your characteristics about you that helped you survive and get to this point. And I'm gonna point them out to you. and you tell me what you think. So
Okay, sure.
one big thing that I heard you talk about a lot that stands out for you that has probably helped you survive all this time is being an optimist. And that optimism hasn't allowed you to be a victim. Even though there was a little point in time that you, in your early teens, that you were angry and you were thinking that way, but what got you out of that was the optimism and ability to see the good in things and to see the possibility. So that's number one. I think I put 5 things. Number 2 is the tipping points. Being able to recognize, okay, this is a moment where I have to pivot. So that's number 2, having that which is attached to number 3. Number 3 is discernment. So you had the discernment and at so many different points to be able to recognize, okay, this is the time where I need to do something and I'm going to do it. So being able to act on it. So that was that's number 2 and 3 wrapped up together. And I might as well put in there number 4, acting, because you took action. Like you did all these things are the things that have gotten you here. And then number 5 and 6, I have 6. Number 5 and 6 are together too, which is you always had support and love. And one of, support and love came from your grandparents that were always there. And then the last thing is the love story that's hidden inside of this whole story is a love story of you and your wife.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like those 6 things have gotten you to where you're at, so optimism, turning points, discernment, taking action, support, and love. Like those things are the things that are like all the ingredients that are in your story that you hear, which is like, those are all good things for people to think about. Like when you're in a bad situation, like right now, if Clinton is in a bad situation at any other point in time, you could think back on these things and say, okay, how could I look at the good of it? Is it time for me to move? Yeah. What action do I need to take? What support do I need? Because these are the things that have been at every point in your story. I don't know. Do you notice that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think that, I'm pretty critical of myself. I think that, there's quite a few of us that, because we do this essentially for a living, we kind of pick, poke holes and, it looks like Swiss cheese, afterwards that, it's easy to be critical and it's easy to be hard on yourself. But I think what's more important though, is that when you are able to actually hone in and recognize some of those things that not only take place in your life, but how you're feeling in that point. And I think that what's important is, again, if you have the ability to look in the mirror and put your ego aside for a second and really kind of be at a macro perspective, if you will, and really kind of be somebody that's looking down at the situation, because, oftentimes in business, a lot of people do this is they want to, they call it the similar situation or put the shoe on the other foot for a second. And they kind of try to drive in that seat for a minute, in that driver's seat of what's going on, but recognizing that if you don't make change, because remember what I said earlier, lessons are not always wrapped in beautiful bows, right? They don't always come like, well, here, you better learn this, sir. That's not how this works. There becomes a great deal of pain and a great deal of suffering and remorse when these things happen in your life, to where they teach such a valuable lesson because you don't want to feel that pain, right? I think that my wife and I have such a strong relationship and we work things out to where our communication is so alive that I can read her thoughts, she can read mine, so we can look at each other and we don't even have to fight. We'll just know, turn and walk the other way, right? We'll get to this tomorrow. We've been able to experience some, some trials and tribulations, throughout our relationship. But remember, I watched people not like each other in front of me to the point to where it was dangerous. And it wasn't their fault at the time. Their passion and love for each other was so strong that it drove each other away, which is fine. But I took that lesson, and maybe I didn't know I was taking it at that time. But now when I have communication with my significant other, it's definitely different. Okay, to put it mildly. Okay, and it's helped me. It's helped me have a great relationship with my wife. It's helped me become and stay married for as long as I have, because I have friends that have been married and divorced. I have family that's been married and divorced. It didn't work out, whatever. But this has given me that lesson to be able to hold in my life. And then my relationship with my daughter, you know, look, she will never see the things that I've seen growing up. I will make sure of it. But how is she, you know, how can I take those lessons that I learned the hard way and kind of now guide her down a better path, you know, to be the right parent, right? So that's the challenge now, is how do I regurgitate that to come out differently but get the same point across? You know, it's challenging. It really is. But again, you know, things happen for you and they don't happen to you.
Again.
Yes.
Well, you know what? I'm sure you're not going to be surprised about this, but we've been on for 1 hour and 36 minutes.
Oh my gosh. Wow. And I told my wife, I was like, we got to have it. It's got to be short or nobody will listen. But whatever. I get to tell my story. They can watch it later. They can break it into a mini series. I don't care. Just share it with somebody.
So why don't I, you know, first I want to thank you for telling your story here and for coming. I'm so glad I got to know you better. So awesome. I'm sure we'll do a lot of things together in the future. You're totally the type of person I could do other stuff with. So yes, that's good. And I love what you do, and I love what you stand for. And I love the way you've been able to transform that, you know, everything you went through and turn it into your purpose, which is exactly what this is for. So it was super, super awesome.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. It was awesome.
It was. And so why don't you tell everyone how they could find you and like how they could connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I'm on pretty much every social media, either under my name, Clinton J. Mansfield. That's how you can pretty much find me all over, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, of course, Provoke Coach. That's on Instagram and Facebook as well. Go to my website, check it out. That is www.provokecoach.com. Okay, definitely subscribe to the newsletter. I'm going to be starting that on December 1st as well. So I'm going to just give, you know, a lot of cool insight just about regular everyday life. And then, of course, like I said, my mobile app is going to be rolling out here, hopefully by the end of the year. We're going to get that rolling, and then I'll have all the designs for the shirts and apparel coming out. So that way you guys can kind of, you know, be able to give back on that as well.
Awesome. All right. So super awesome to talk to you.
Yes, thank you.
And I'm gonna type up these 5 points.
Okay.
And send them to you because that's your secret weapons. Those have been your secret weapons the whole entire time. Maybe you could implement them into your coaching. But thank you so much for being awesome. And I want to say good night to everyone. People have, you know, I didn't even have a chance to. I've been putting up people's comments, but I didn't even have a chance to say anything to them. But you gave them a great.
All right.
Thank you. All right. Good night, everyone.
All right.